Thank you for listening to the Culture of Splife podcast. Follow us on all of our social media at Culture of Splife. We typically like to record this podcast on Mondays at 8:30 p.m. Central Time on TikTok. But if there is a scheduling change, we will post that on all of our social media. So follow us at Culture of Splife. Hey, I noticed, both of us are wearing Auburn. How about that?
Right. They need all the help they can get.
Yeah, I was about to say it was a rough weekend for their basketball team.
Absolutely, it was.
Oh, the Auburn's burning my eyes. Yes, Sandy. Roll
Just getting
Tide.
geared up for the Alabama game this weekend, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to have to wear my lucky panties for that one. That's going to be a rough one for sure. I'm not looking forward to it. The last one was pretty bad. This one's going to be even worse, I think. Auburn's not pulling this one out. I don't believe in the basketball game. But
yeah, and it's in Tuscaloosa. The way they've been burying people there.
Yeah, I know. I'm kind of thinking it's going to be like that NBA game where we have 351 points scored or whatever it was. So what game was that, Josh?
I tuned into that.
I mean, who would have thought that you would have an all-star game type of score after the all-star game?
Right. Both teams shot over 60% from the field.
That was ridiculous at the end of, because I of course don't watch the NBA. I've told people that I'm not an NBA fan, but when you were like, did you check out that game? It's like, no, didn't. And then I look at the score and I'm like, whoa, what is this? And of course I'm immediately like Googling, what's the highest scoring NBA game? How close is this? It's got to be close. And it was within 10 points, I think, of the highest scoring game ever. Something like that.
I would hope so.
Oh man, I saw the stat. I can't remember. Yeah, it was really close though.
Sure. It was really close. I actually thought about this, and honestly, I don't think if we had three basketballs, the three of us were playing on half a court, and you gave us, what would that have been? 64 minutes, roughly 54 minutes. Trying to do the math in my head. What? No.
Yeah, it would have been
58 minutes. If you gave us 58 minutes, three basketballs, one hoop, I don't think the three of us could have scored that many points.
I think you're probably right.
I'm just throwing that out there. I don't believe between the three of us combined, just shooting, and I don't think we could have done it.
Well, did y'all see the skills contest during the All-Star break? Those guys couldn't make shots at all, and they're professionals. The rookies, right, I think, literally made like 2 buckets in a minute or something. Like, it was insane.
Yeah, we're at that stage now in the NBA where if it's not a dunk or a three, they can't really do it very well.
Right.
I mean, like, who does a mid-range game or even a turnaround or fade away in the post? I mean, like, what are those concepts now?
And that's the thing. We had tabled a topic. We ignored a topic, truly, that Josh had suggested about the shot clock this week. He just, I don't know what your point was about the shot clock, and it got me thinking, like, what are my opinions on the shot clock? What if we did away with it? What would happen? And I'm thinking, man, I think I would have to foul every person because at that point, I think I would stand a better chance of winning if I just fouled without the shot clock rather than just let them hold the ball. Because like you said, that mid-range shot, I think, is the whole, like, crux. We're either shooting from half court or right under the goal. There's no in-between anymore. Let's take our chances with some free throws. I'm going to foul out my whole team. Let's go. Let's do this. Forget the shot clock. I don't need it anymore. I'm fouling everybody.
It's like high school, right? They don't have a shot clock.
Exactly.
Well, what was so funny about the game, I tuned in probably like midway through the third quarter because it was pretty close. And at one point, I think the Clippers were up by 6 or 8, maybe even 10 towards the end of regulation. And all of a sudden, they didn't know how to play basketball. Paul George got ripped by De'Aaron Fox for a layup.
So Pandemic P is coming back, if everybody remembers him.
Right. That's exactly right.
I mean, like,
then Kawhi Leonard threw a perfect strike to whatever Sacramento King was running in that area and picked it off for a layup. And then there was a horrible offensive foul on the inbound. I mean, literally, they scored 6 points in 7 seconds. And then they started throwing the ball to the big Plumlee kid. And
Well,
even the announcer said, why would you put the ball on the court unless you knew who was around you? He just kept getting pickpocketed like 2 times in a row. It was amazing.
Well, you got to think about this for the Clippers at this point. Anytime you have Paul George and Russell Westbrook on the same team, there's a very good chance that there are going to be several games where you snatch defeat from the jaws of victory.
That is true, but Westbrook played really well. He had 14 assists, I think 18 points.
And like 17 points.
In his first game, but he fouled out. And that was pretty much the difference, I think. Because they didn't have anybody who was used to bringing the ball down the court at that point. You know, yeah. Reggie Jackson's on the Nuggets, so he couldn't do it. So, yeah. And Bones Highland
George happened.
Cancer. So, but what a game. For sure. That's funny we talked about that since that wasn't on the slate. But what's on the slate today, Drew?
It just happens. It just happens.
That's it.
It's so impressive. We just have to talk about it.
That's right.
And you know, obviously Russell Westbrook is on the other LA team, and now the Lakers are on the win streak.
But now LeBron's out indefinitely. So
yeah, with the foot.
That's right.
You know, it's kind of crazy.
Oh, we got a War Eagle. We got a War Eagle.
Oh, look at
that. It's kind of crazy, but I don't. I mean, this is like the biggest if ever. If AD stays healthy for the Lakers, they still have a chance to keep the wins going while LeBron's out.
I definitely
with
think
the team that they have right now.
That's exactly right. Getting Vanderbilt. Did you see the stats? He basically shut down Luka by himself last night.
I mean, Vando is. I mean, he's a calmer version of like a Dennis Rodman type. I mean, because he has nonstop energy. He rebounds the ball. He defends like crazy. I mean, that guy was. I mean, that was a huge pickup for them getting a hustle guy like that.
Oh yeah, didn't he come with D'Angelo?
He did.
Yeah.
He, D'Angelo, and Beasley.
That's a funny story in and of itself, isn't it? With the whole Larsa Pippen thing. You know, Malik Beasley was dating Scottie Pippen Jr.'s mom. And now they're teammates. So that's kind of an interesting dynamic.
We got a good question in the chat though, and it might segue pretty well to our resident on-call bracketologist here.
I see it.
But is Bruce Pearl in trouble?
No, I don't think so. I think you also have to look at a couple of things. Like each year there's different teams. And if you look at what Auburn had last year versus what they have this year, I mean, it's just a completely different deal. Like this year's team is hurting from a guard standpoint. I mean, you look at the year that you guys got to the Final Four, guard play was ridiculous. Right? So now it's, I mean, if Broom doesn't have like 20 and 20, like you're struggling.
Right.
And I think personally, Bruce Pearl, he builds his team around that guard play.
Correct.
Almost to a fault, and we're seeing a fault. And hey, you know what? In a basketball world, if this is a fault year and we're still looking at the tournament, I mean, right now we're on the cusp of that NIT bid, right? We might be falling out of it pretty soon, depending on how well we play in the championship.
You guys are a 10 seed right now.
But if we go into the tournament, we do well. Things could look pretty good.
So it's Alabama and Tennessee this week. Alabama on Wednesday, and then Tennessee. That's as rough as it gets. I think you'll lose to Bama, but I actually believe that you got a chance to upset Tennessee.
I made the horrible mistake of watching the Vanderbilt game. Not this past Saturday, but the Saturday before. I was like, oh, we're probably going to win. I started watching it at 12:30 a.m. Sunday morning, right after the game had ended, and should have gone to bed. But I was watching that, and what made me so mad is that Janai Broom would score, and he would do that motion of, you're too small.
Yeah.
But then the Robbins kid from Vanderbilt, who reminded me of like Big Country Reeves, remember him?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
He completely dominated Broom. I think he got like 19 free throws or something. It was like Joel Embiid down the stretch against the Celtics. Nobody can do anything with them. You just have to foul and hope they miss free throws. And that's how this Robbins kid was just owning Broom. So,
Well, it goes into the what we see now is that AAU mentality. I mean, we were talking about travel ball a little pregame, but it's that mentality of, you can own me like all game. We could be down by like 20 points, but if I get some kind of highlight or make some kind of play, I'm gonna showcase that, and you're not on my level for that, 20 seconds while I'm not on your level for the rest of the, you know, uh, 59 minutes and 40 seconds.
exactly. It's like when you're watching a football game, probably college, and the one team is up by 50, and the team that's down 50 scores a touchdown, and they're celebrating, and somebody on the team that's up just points at the scoreboard.
Yep.
Stop.
I,
But you're exactly right. It's this new mentality.
I mean, like it's astounding because obviously my daughter is knee deep in the AAU basketball game, which she also scrimmages during the week and does skills training with high school boys like 5-on-5, and is actually the point guard in those full court scrimmages with high school boys right now. But like it just never fails that we run into just people all the time where whether it's their parents or them, if you give them a choice of score 10 points and on a team that wins the tournament that weekend, or you score 30 and your team gets beat by 25, like 90% of them take the latter.
Wow.
And we wonder why we have such a problem right now with NBA, and why is there such a big issue with skills challenges and scoring 351 total points in a game, and an all-star game where the final score is 250 to 248. I mean, this is why it starts with that mentality.
Yep. That
So how
is
do we
definitely
fix it?
where we are. Mm-hmm. Definitely where we are. But someone who is able to do both. How about Dame Lillard with 71 points last
time.
night?
Woo!
Yes.
Dame time. And what did he make, like 13 threes?
Yes.
It was like 13 or 15 or something crazy like that.
Yeah. He had 41 at the break. Yeah.
I know that's when I started like following it, because all of a sudden, I was getting alerts on my phone. Dame with 41 at halftime. I was like,
don't you love those alerts? When you get that, you're immediately like, wait, is he going to score 80? Is that?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying.
Is that what's going to happen here?
And I love how he's not LeBron James. I need to go to a team that put a team together so we can win. He's trying to build in Portland, and he's been doing it forever. And they just get rid of all of his players, and he's the only one that stays there. Of course, $61 million a year probably doesn't hurt.
I'm so frustrated with that LeBron mentality that you mentioned, Josh, because I mean, like even now when you like talk about like 11, 12, 13, 14-year-old kids, like this has to go back. Seems like everything goes back to travel ball, but it's just astounding now. Like my daughter's at school and she's like, everybody at school that plays basketball, they're all trying to get with, whether it's her school or like all the neighboring schools, they're trying to get together and get on the same AAU team. Like it's just like that's the only thing people know how. And like we decided not to go that route, and every day it's like, come on, you got to go on our team. Come on, let's do this. And she's like, nah, don't want to do that. But that's where it starts.
Every conversation that is ever had about basketball always leads to what? The GOAT conversation. Yes. And here we are again. Michael was able to do it with what? 6 All-Stars? Is that what it was in all of his championships?
That's exactly right.
And here we are again. So
I
your
mean, and people
daughter's
like
out
LeBron
there
need 6
showing out.
All-Stars at one time just to compete for one title.
That's right. Exactly. Exactly. And
You
your
know
daughter, what's that,
No,
Drew?
what were you going to say?
Oh, I was
Go
just
ahead.
going to say, and then there's your daughter, who just wants to be the best. She's such an unbelievable team player. She's facilitating. She's a decoy oftentimes
Mhm.
until she needs to make the game winner against Mountain Brook, right?
Yeah, yeah. And it's so funny
What's
because people will ask her, she's like, well, do you want to go to UConn or South Carolina? And she actually will tell them now, no, I don't. I want to be on the team that takes them down.
Wow. Wow.
Absolutely. I'm going to be the showstopper. You know what's funny about it though? It's almost a step further than this. I don't know if you've ever read the book about by Malcolm Gladwell. It's called Outliers. It's a study of people that are great at stuff,
Mm-hmm.
right? The outlier, so to speak, and they actually studied people that are professional NHL players that are Canadian born, right? And they found there was one simple way to find out somebody's greatness
Mm-hmm.
in Canada in hockey. And this corresponds to every sport, by the way. It correlates perfectly,
Mm-hmm.
and you can do it with any kind of sport. You should have freaks of nature that are out there that do have a little bit of natural talent, that are a little bit ahead of the game. But for the most part, you're going to get this correlation. And have you guys ever read the book before?
I haven't, but I'm interested now.
So do you know what the one factor is that correlates to greatness inside of sports, specifically the NHL in Canada?
Let's see here.
That age break, like being the oldest. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Like I can even look at my career as a basketball player in school growing up, and you guys are probably
Mm-hmm.
like, "What? You were a basketball player?" I was, and I had the tools, I had the abilities, I had the basketball camps. The problem was I was born in April, which means I was the youngest kid almost always playing basketball with a bunch of older kids. What'd that mean? I was a little bit shorter, I was a little bit slower, that kind of thing. What did I not get? I didn't get selected for the good teams. I didn't get to go to the good travel ball teams and stuff like that because I was that way. So by the time I'm in 10th grade, the disparity between me and the rest of the team, hey guys, I went to a 4A school growing up. You don't
It's pretty
think I
wild.
wouldn't have been one of the tallest guys on the team? I would have been.
And if
I,
if you had been playing for like a long period of time, you had developed the reputation of, oh, he's a small guy, he's a young guy. But
exactly.
you know what they're doing. It's crazy that you mentioned that because you know what they're doing now. Like most kids, they are reclassing kids now, like fourth, fifth, sixth grade. They're repeating the same grade or holding them back just so they can have an advantage in sports. Like I actually know like three kids that, well, one of them in particular, they just held him back in the sixth grade, and he just homeschooled that year and came back as a sixth grader again just so he could have an advantage in sports. So that's
Yeah.
that's that's
And
the workaround now.
and that ties into what Larry just said in the comments. He says, I always see the best of the best starting off at a super young age. You start at a super young age, but if your birthday falls on the right date, like if you're an October or even a September baby in some cases, you start at that super young age, you're set for life. I mean, you're going pro. It's almost in your destiny because you're going to have that advantage over everybody else. It's absolutely insane.
Although it is crazy that my daughter is an August birthday where she doesn't, like, she turned 13, she's in the eighth grade. She won't turn 14 until the ninth grade. So we could
Right.
have actually did the and what's crazy about that is, I mean, she's still the best in her class because she's kind of that outlier there. But we've had a ton of people like that come up to me asking if we would just like reclass her. Like I literally had a travel team that said, well, she could play for a grade below because she won't turn 14 before the season's over. Like, and then this is so.
Right. It's always going to happen, and if that happens, she gets an extra year of practice. I mean, and think about that. For real, an extra year of practice. at that age, you know, whenever you've got people out there that they're 13 years old and they're just discovering they kind of like basketball for the
Yeah.
first time, right? And you're going up against your daughter who is it's ingrained in her and is, you know, in her blood, right? It's just her, right? She's awesome at it. So it's tough if you're that new person going against that person that has been reclassified. But I even remember some of the best football players when I was growing up. They were the older kids. They were the
Yep.
kids with the October birthdays.
Correct.
The guy I went to school with, Jordan, he was always bigger than all of us, hands down. Well, of course he was. He was almost a year older than me.
Yes.
Right? Like, of course he was.
So do you fix this problem or do you just let it continue? Because my son plays travel soccer and everything is based on birth year.
Right.
So everybody on his team was born in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what stinks for him is that he was born on December 29th, 2011. So he is by far the youngest on the team. Actually, there's one other kid that was born in December as well, but he's also undersized. So travel soccer, it doesn't matter. You get held back. Oh, well, now you're playing with older kids. So you're used to playing resets with younger kids, and now you're having to go up, right? And
it's a big culture.
You always played your competition. So
yeah, soccer is problematic anyway in the United States, specifically, just because like your son should count his many blessings about. Sorry, I got distracted by a question in the chat. That was a good question. But what I was saying was soccer in the U.S. is problematic anyway, because, like, no offense to your son, but the best soccer players don't even get the opportunity to play soccer in some cases. Because, like, in Alabama, where we're all from, you don't even get you don't even have the team. Like, I grew up in Corner, Alabama. You can Google that. It's a place. It actually exists. There's a high school there. And they have never not once played soccer. Unless they start,
This definitely brings up an interesting conversation, what you're talking about with soccer. But yeah, definitely want to get with what Larry is saying about his question. I do like that. But when you talk about that with soccer, it's really, and we always talk about, well, how can we get it better in the United States? Well, our biggest issue is most of the kids, they may start playing soccer, but when we find out that they're super freak athletes, what do? We funnel them to basketball or football, and while in other countries, their elite athletes are the ones that are playing soccer. And so I think that's going to be your problem for a long time. And that's why it's hard to garner that consistency. And as far as the U.S., until they crack that code, the U.S. will stay behind in the world with soccer.
So you know what the code was in Corner, Alabama. I had one of my best friends. Of course, I told you guys this pregame. He and I actually helped coach soccer. Once we got into college. But here's what we did: 10th grade. The special teams coach of our football team said, "Oh, you kids play soccer. You're going to be the punter. You're going to be the place kicker. Yep. You hold for him." And that was legitimately going to be our role if we wanted it. And it was on the table for us to take. And it was not, oh, we've got a couple of guys that play soccer. Let's find us, 10 or 12 more and see if we can come up with a team. It's a ragtag team of misfits or something. No, it was, you guys are going to kick a football.
Yep. And then as a teenager, you're thinking, let's see here, which is the easiest way for me to get a girl? Stay on the soccer team or be on the football team? That's
Kickers don't get girls.
I'm just saying that was the funniest thing, because I actually had somebody say, well, it's easier for me to get girls if I'm on the football or basketball team than the soccer team.
Look, I've got a fact that proves that one. Y'all know the kicker that won the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
What's his name?
Butker.
Yeah, exactly. Butker. For that split second there, nobody knew what his name was.
That's right.
He kicked the game-winning field goal in the Super Bowl, and we're going to forget it. I've said it a million times, guys. I'll say it one more time. He would have missed that. By God, we would have all known his name immediately.
Yes.
Right.
I can name Hurts. I can name Mahomes all day long. I can talk about them all I want to, and we can spout out their names. But it's like,
We
who was
never
it?
remember him.
Who was it? Oh yeah, Butker. Because
Yeah,
he did his job and he walked away. That was it.
Yeah,
No,
but we
I'm
still
not
know
going to
who
lie.
Second, I didn't even remember who was in the Super Bowl. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was like, man, it's amazing how quickly it just kind of.
Right.
But we still remember
By the
Scott
way,
Norwood.
By the way, did you guys see the poll that got dropped for the new folks that are coming in? Y'all got in before I put it in here. So football alternatives right now, we've got 3 of them: XFL, USF, or USFL. Goodness, XFL, USFL, or CFL. So you can vote whenever you join in on the podcast. What's your NFL alternative? I have a feeling we're going to get a big fat 0 votes on that poll. Because there is no NFL alternative, but we'll see as folks come through the podcast.
So Larry's question: do you
All
guys
right, let's
have
go
any
back
thoughts?
to it. We got to.
You got any
Rather
thoughts?
watch Live Golf, Larry. Come on, man. It's not that bad.
I'm watching golf. That's what I'm doing. Forget that mess. Hey, look, it's not common that Dallas gets to actually play football in February, so watch out. They're doing it this year with the XFL. So all my Dallas fans out there, y'all got football in February. It's a unique experience.
All right, so who is the GOAT to never win a ring? I got mine, but I'll let y'all go first. See if you steal mine.
Go ahead, Drew.
Oh, I've got nothing on this one. GOAT to never win a ring. Jeez Louise. Rod, you're gonna have to go first.
It's really like a batch of people that you could even just throw in and just have to decide from there. Obviously, Karl Malone is one of those that you got to think about as being one of the greatest that never.
That was the first one that came to my mind, but I told you guys I was rocking the Karl Malone LA Gears in elementary school, so I thought I was picking him. I didn't really think it was anything special there, so that's why I said that one. But I won't steal it. I'll come up with another
recall, one. Oscar Robinson never won one, right?
I think that's correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those are just off the top of my head, 2 of them. I mean, well, really, we can almost look at a ton of people from the 90s that just didn't win one because Michael Jordan played. I mean,
right.
Charles Barkley, is one of them in that conversation. But I would have to probably, if you look at the longevity of career and how close they consistently were, I'd probably have to go with Karl Malone personally. I would be interested to see what our viewers say too. But what do you got?
I was gonna say Charles Barkley. I read something about Charles Barkley just the other day. I don't remember if it was. I think it was before a playoff game. I really like what Larry said. AI too. I mean,
I love that. Great.
What maybe 5'11", 6 foot. I know they said he was 6'2", but
he's really about 5'10"
and like 165. Maybe soaking wet.
Now, Larry, here's one of the things about AI. For somebody that didn't win a title, he probably has one of the top 5 most iconic moments in NBA Finals history where he made the shot and stepped over Tyronn Lue.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, speaking of which, do y'all remember Mario Hezonja? So Mario Hezonja, he was actually drafted by, and I'm probably butchering his name. He's from somewhere in Europe. He got drafted by the Magic. He said he was going to be better than Kobe Bryant. He ended up getting released, and he went to the Knicks. And he dunked on Giannis. And he did the walkover on Giannis. Look it up. And let's just say that was bad for Mario. Because he got thumped on so hard by the freak. It was bad. Look it up.
Okay.
But, sorry, Larry, we're all over the place on this podcast, man.
But that's the beauty of it because, hey, listeners, I mean, you guys get a chance to drive this as well. I mean, we'll talk about what you want to talk about.
That's right.
Is it bad? I deep down want to say James Harden.
Yeah, I mean,
is that just go ahead and predestinate that right there, James Harden. That's my choice in 10 years. No, I think I would go Patrick Ewing.
That's a good choice. That's a
I
good
think one. Since you guys got the probably my other two go to with Karl Malone. Like I said, I really wasn't sure on Karl Malone
by now.
I read
just give it to him.
I read that Charles Barkley, the night before a game, ate 2 pizzas and either had I think it was a bunch of beer.
Yes.
And he went out and had 44 points and 22 rebounds.
Yes.
That's
How
my
can
boy.
You not respect that guy?
The round mound of rebound.
I mean, you're talking about a guy that's like 6'5", that's like one of the best rebounders in history. He didn't have any, he didn't have a 45-inch vertical or anything like that. So
no,
I mean that's greatness.
Just a force. Reggie Miller's another good one, right? He didn't have a championship, right?
No, and then T-Mac, I see here, Larry, you talk about him. That's a great one as well.
Oh, I got a story about T-Mac. So the Magic in 2000 were actually up 3-1 on the Pistons. The Pistons were 1 and the Magic were 8. And Tracy McGrady went into the media and said, "It feels so good to get out of the first round." We lost in 7.
Yep.
I was at game 6. John Barry, I still can't stand that guy, was like making fun of the Magic fans as we lost game 6 by 27, I think, and then had to go back to Detroit for game 7.
I mean,
whew.
I do remember that. That was
NBA
rough.
final champions, right? Because they beat the Lakers that year. I may be off 1 year. I think it was 2000, though, wasn't it?
Wait,
when the Pistons beat the Lakers?
That was 2004.
No, 2004. 2004. That's right, 2004.
Oh, I almost said that one simply because of his commercials. We're still quoting. My kids have never saw what was it, Geico? His I'm sorry, I should explain that I'm referencing the chat about Mutombo. Is in there for goats without the ring. Yeah, the Geico commercials or whatever. No, not today. Like, we still reference those in my house, and my kids never actually saw one of those live. Like, if somebody throws something in the house, I'm knocking it out of the air. No. Like, that's what I do. I think those were Geico commercials. I'd have to look that up on YouTube. But
and then who dunked on him?
Jordan.
That's
and
right.
Right there.
That's right.
And that was in the playoffs.
Yep. When Mutombo was on the Hawks?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Gosh, it's crazy to think about them playing together, because that's almost like 2 different worlds of basketball, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do agree with Larry on Yao Ming being
Yao Ming. So did y'all happen to see, kind of switching gears a little bit, I just looked at the clock. Did y'all happen to see the Jake Paul Tommy Fury fight by chance?
Boo! Did somebody say something there? Look,
that sideshow, right?
Look, I've been a fight fan for years. My primary sport growing up was martial arts, so I was really excited for the UFC to sort of take front and center stage, especially growing up here in Alabama. UFC early on got a lot of start in Alabama, so I've always been a big fight fan, and I have to admit, what is happening with boxing should no longer be considered fighting. It's almost
like you.
it's almost WWC-esque.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you go to a circus and a fight breaks out.
Right. And look, I'm not gonna lie, I've seen better fights at midnight at a Waffle House than what happened.
Oh, we definitely have.
And how these are going to decision and not not finishing, I have no idea. But that's just a whole nother story altogether. The comment. So whenever we take this recording, our friend Larry here commented that he was scared to fight the other Fury brother. And yeah, I couldn't disagree with that statement at all whatsoever. Josh, what you watched the fight
Yes.
live? What was your take on the matter?
Yes, I watched the fight. I watched the fight live, and it was like a lot of pawing by Jake Paul. His stance looked off, like he looked like he had never fought anybody in his life, and there were a lot of like these huge roundhouses, not just like a normal roundhouse, but like a way up high. And if Tommy Fury had any experience at all, it would be like the one time that I boxed, and my good buddy Tori Quinones, who may be listening to the show, I went up like this. I didn't have my guard up at all, right? I went up like this, and he went like this, boom, and knocked me out cold. And if Fury would have done that, Paul would have been on the ground. But Fury's basically a rookie, right? He's 23 years old. He hadn't fought anybody. And that's what Paul was hanging his hat on. That Fury's opponents were like 20-200 for his 8-0 victory, his 8-0 record. So that's why Paul was expecting to just come out and dominate him. But
So
all
Josh, you're
Paul
telling
could
me that
do was get him with a big hit. And he got him like once in maybe the third round, and then not again till the eighth. But by the seventh round, the fight, for all intents and purposes, was over. But then he caught him, and Fury went down. But then he got back up, and Fury just looked like a much more polished fighter, which is pretty sad for a guy who thinks that he's a boxer. But as we talked about in pregame, this was very much like Kimbo Slice walking into the UFC octagon. Very similar to me. I'll never forget. I was at Barnes and Noble. People, my family was looking at books or whatever, and I went over to the magazine rack, and I'm reading a UFC magazine. And there was an article done by a guy, I can't even remember his name, but he weighed like 165 pounds. And he said, I will completely dominate Kimbo Slice. And what was Kimbo, like 240, 250?
Yeah.
He said, I will own that guy in the ring. He is garbage. And of course, he had some other colorful language about how he felt he was garbage. But then, of course, Kimbo fights Ken Shamrock's distant cousin and loses in like 40 seconds. So same kind of comparison here with Jake Paul.
So that distant cousin of Ken Shamrock, that was actually faster fight than 40 seconds. It was 14.
Oh wow!
Is what he lost that fight in. But the thing with Kimbo Slice, I have to say it's a little bit different. If you don't know the backstory, Kimbo Slice was viral on, I don't know how we shared videos. We emailed them back and forth with each other because he literally went viral for just having fights in his front yard. It was like, I don't know. Was he in Florida? Is that what state he was in? I remember it being tropical.
Yeah, Florida, Miami.
Yeah, and he was just beating the crap out of dudes. And the problematic thing that you had in the UFC at that point in time was you had a UFC that was, as Senator John McCain called it, it was human chicken fighting is what it was. And you had, Kimbo Slice was coming in for those human chicken fights, meaning these are just unsanctioned punch each other in the face competitions. That's what they were. And Kimbo was good he was okay at that, right? And then it began to become a world, thanks to Senator John McCain, of sanctions and stuff like that. And we saw a twist that was a little unique in Kimbo's career because of that, because then we had to start weighing in. We actually had to start training for fights and stuff like that. So I have to say that Kimbo was just a unique example. If I had to compare it to anything, I would have actually compared it to the fight that Kimbo won the guy that Kimbo won, and oh gosh, I'm trying to think what his name was. It was Tank Abbott. To me, that was what Jake Paul reminds me of. That fight reminds me of more than that. Tank Abbott was really, really good until we started getting qualified fighters in there. And that's when Tank Abbott's record went to below 50-50, which once you hit that point, you're out of the UFC. But luckily Kimbo Slice went on that good right, yeah. So to Larry's point, comments, he was past his prime. Yes. He absolutely was past his prime for sure. But again, Tank, that comparison, that was adult chicken fighting is what we're talking about there. We weren't talking about sanctioned weight classes, things of that nature. I mean, just to be honest, a guy like Tank Abbott, guys like Kimbo Slice, I'm surprised they even survived through that. Because the most you can weigh in a fight's 265, and some of those guys were just gigantic.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, going for the sitcom roundhouse is just not the move.
No, absolutely
I mean, that's basically what you've been telling me, Josh, that you saw, like, out of Paul. I mean, we're going for the same roundhouse that you see, like, on the sitcoms and stuff.
Like Popeye.
Yeah.
Right. He was doing a lot of this, too. He was doing a lot of this, and then he'd get jabbed in the face, and then he'd stop doing it. It was hilarious.
Well, and you're talking about those overhand punches. That's something that you see a lot of in, like, the UFC and stuff when you've got a cage behind you that you can get that leverage off of and jump, kind of crow hop your way in there. Right. Superman punch like Roman Reigns or something like that in the WWE. You can't do that in a real fight, though.
Yeah, and of course, what Larry just said, that Brock started that trend of huge and fast fighters.
It's like Happy Gilmore hitting a golf ball. You really can't run up and hit a golf ball
like and swing. Yes.
Yeah,
that's actually a really good analogy.
It works once, and occasionally you'll see it executed
10 times.
You'll occasionally see it executed. No, though, I will hand it to Kimbo Slice. This is another reason why I disagree with the comparison, is because Kimbo Slice was undefeated as a boxer.
Oh,
that's where Jake Paul failed on that aspect. But
let me talk post fight real fast.
Oh, okay.
So the first judge said that he won 74-73 or something like that. Don't quote me on the numbers, but by one. And then the second judge said 76-73 Fury. And then the third judge said 76-73 Fury. So then they interview Fury. He's great. Oh, I love my daughter. I'm so happy to see my wife. All this stuff. This is a dream of mine to fight here. Blah, 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 blah. Meaning I made a lot of money. So this was cool is how I heard him. And then they interview Jake Paul. And he just starts in with all the excuses.
Right.
I didn't agree with the judges. I know that there were at least 2 rounds where I won 10-8. This was a really tough camp for me. I was hurt. I was sick. And all the fans just started booing like crazy. And he said, but no excuses. I'm not here to make excuses. I want y'all to measure me in my losses, not my wins. And he just went into this whole diatribe. But he completely made all the excuses he could think of before he got booed off the stage, basically.
It's reminiscent of Larry King asking Joel Osteen what it takes to be a Christian. Him sweating the bullets on that. That's sort of what that turn kind of looked like when we got Jake Paul talking about how he lost and everybody starts booing, and it's like, wait, no, I'm supposed to be the good guy here. No, I didn't mean it. I'm just pretending. So Larry asked in the chat, what's the term when you think something's impossible, then once the record's broken by multiple people? That's the what is it, Roger Bannister effect?
Yeah, that's the 4-minute mile.
Yeah, the 4-minute mile. That's what we got right there, the Roger Bannister effect. But but yeah, that's Jake Paul's an interesting dude. I'm gonna love watching him in the WWE whenever I get to hate on him. I hope the boxing thing's over.
I'm sure he'll probably have a contract before the end of the year.
Well,
he and his brother will probably be tagging, at the next pay-per-view, like a SummerSlam or something.
I think so, but to your point, Josh, I think there will be a rematch, right?
They've already both agreed. After the fight, they both agreed.
Yeah, most of those contracts are, if it goes to a decision, there's going to be a rematch. And God, I only hope that it ends in
Hashtag money
knockout.
grab.
So shout out to Jake Paul, because he said that if he lost, he would give his earnings to Tommy Fury. And Logan Paul said if Jake Paul lost, that he would give up his share of some company that he owns. So I'd be interested to know if those guys fulfilled their promises, because
Yeah.
I doubt it.
So Josh, speaking of records that just can't be broken, I mean, let's talk a little bit about Uncle Joe.
Uncle Joe's trivia. Larry doesn't know about Uncle Joe's trivia, but
That's
he's going to
right.
know here
You got to
very
fill him
soon.
in.
That's it. Absolutely. So Uncle Joe's trivia is old school trivia. That's the trivia that you go to a bar and it happens to be trivia night and everybody's sitting around and you've got the one annoying person on the mic who wants everybody to get involved in trivia. But the biggest rule that that guy has is what? No cheating in trivia. So if you're listening to us live, if you're listening to us on demand, we don't care. Don't cheat. You can always comment, whether you're listening live or listening on demand. But Uncle Joe doesn't cheat. Uncle Joe is my, what did we call him last week? My uncle-in-law, my wife's uncle. And
Right.
he'll always pull me aside at Thanksgiving and hit me with some awesome trivia question. So hopefully I have a good one today. And then I have someone who's stepping up today in the other Auburn fan, in Mr. Drew Tolbert. So I'll hit y'all with the first one. And that is, there are 3 former NBA players that went on to be NBA referees. Name those 3 former NBA players.
That should be a good one.
See, and oh no, go ahead, Rob.
I was gonna say, and Drew, one of the things that we can tell people to the point about Uncle Joe and not
Larry said
cheating
I'm
on
out.
these is that it's so much more fun. Number one, we've had some really, really lively debates in our chats, almost like guys about to fight each other about their answers to a trivia, which
Right.
is kind of hilarious. But then we've had some really cool collaborations that have happened as a result of us, trying to figure out the trivia as well. And we actually had one pregame a few weeks back to one of Uncle Joe's questions, and it was just amazing how it was, I said something and then it prompted you to remember something, and then we figured it out together.
Right. And that's actually happened in the comment section on some of our social media. So, now's the time to plug that as well. We're at Culture of Splife. It's the one that Josh is live on down here. That's our channel across the board. We are on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. So we're, again, at Culture of Splife everywhere we go. And so there have been friends made via the collaborations inside of that stuff. And look, just to be honest with you guys, I'm probably the one posting most of the stuff that's on there. I'm gonna say most of the stuff because these guys do help me out. But just to be honest with you, like this question right here, I don't know the answer to it. I don't even know the answer. So whenever you ask me in the chat, you got to figure it out. Y'all got to get together in the comments and figure it out because I am not answering that because I have no clue who it is. I'd have to Google it.
So we'll give the answer at the end of the show.
But
Yes.
yeah, so if it wasn't for that, I'm not going to know the answer to these trivia questions. If Josh, you got to tune in every week to find out the answer to these trivia questions.
That's right.
All right. Are you ready for the second trivia question?
Oh yeah.
Here's us with
Uncle Joe's trivia. This is actually a little older than Uncle Joe. Uncle Joe may know this one though. All right. So, in 1920, Texas A&M did something to one of their rivals' mascots that no other team has ever done, specifically in the sport of football. What did they do to their rivals' mascot?
Oh, this is a good one.
Man.
Are we going straight
Hey,
up Zach
I'm looking
Morris
forward to see what
Bayside
kind of answers we
kidnapping the
get on that.
mascot? Is that what'd
Yo,
you
we're
say,
both talking at
Rod?
the same time. What'd you say, Drew?
I said, are we going straight up Zach Morris Bayside kidnapping the mascot? Is that what we're doing? Is that what happened?
What'd you
Hey,
say,
I'm
Rod?
interested to see what kind of responses we get to that question.
I can only imagine what it's going to be like. I predict either it's going to be the greatest thing that has ever happened to social media in our lives, or it's going to be absolute crickets. It's going to be one or the other because it's a difficult one. I don't even know that it's the way that I've worded it. I don't know that it is Googleable, if that's a word.
Googleable.
I don't even know that you can Google it just because of the way I worded it. It did happen in January, if that helps. January of 1920. That's specifically. I could track down the exact date, but I don't know that it's possible to do that at this point.
Speaking of throwbacks, thanks Drew for throwing it back to the Zach Morris kidnapping the mascot for Bayside.
Yeah,
I
got
was
to
like, oh yeah.
kidnap that Valley mascot there. That's what we got to do. We rival. Get the dog, right? Get the dog. Goodness. All right, so that's trivia. What other topics did we decide that we wanted to talk about tonight?
I think the rule changes in baseball kind of shook things up for your Atlanta Braves yesterday.
Saturday's game. Yeah, wasn't it Saturday? Saturday?
Saturday?
Yeah, that's a good old Todd ball game. Nothing like that. So what's the rundown? All the rules changes. What did we have change, Josh?
So the main rule change, the one that I love because I'm a diehard Cubs fan, and even obviously that's hard to be.
Our sympathies.
That's hard to be in and of itself, but having to wait 53 seconds between pitches is even harder, right? So the new rule change is you have 15 seconds in between pitches if there is no one on, 20 seconds if there's anybody on base, and 30 seconds between batters. Okay. So these rules are for both the pitcher and the batter. As some Brave found out yesterday that probably won't be on the team. I don't know. I'm not a Braves fan, but I've never heard his name. Maybe he's some future star or something. Maybe he's listening to the show. I don't know. But as you said, the game is tied. It's a full count. So what happens if the pitcher doesn't get the pitch off in time? It's a ball before the pitch, automatically a ball. If the batter isn't ready in the batter's box in time, it's a strike. Okay. So 3-2, bottom of the ninth, I guess. You said it was a tie score. And he's ready. He's ready, but he looks and he sees that the catcher isn't ready. The catcher's still standing up, kind of looking at his wrist. I don't know if he was looking at like pitches, potential pitches to call for the pitcher or whatever. But the pitcher was on the rubber, ready to go. And that's all that matters. The pitcher is the only one that has to be ready. Doesn't matter if the catcher's ready. So the batter started walking to first, thinking that he had gotten this shot clock rule in effect and he was going to get to go to first base. And the umpire called him out, called a strike, because he wasn't ready for the pitch 8 seconds before the shot clock went off. So I think since it's spring training, I think it ended in a tie. I don't think they do extra innings in spring training.
Yeah, no, they just ended it in a tie. Yeah, the spring training stuff right there.
So that's the big rule. The other one that I absolutely love is they're basically taking away the shift. So there have to be 2 position players on either side of second base. So there's no more when Anthony Rizzo comes up, everybody shifts to the right side of the field because for some reason he can't get it between second and third unless it's a drag bunt, and they can probably still throw him out because he's not the fastest. Of course, Rizzo's a Yankee, so I don't even know why I'm talking about him. But I think that'll be great. And then also your feet, when the pitch comes, have to be in the dirt. So, if the guy squared up to bunt, it doesn't matter. You have to be in the dirt until the pitch starts. So that'll kind of help out, fast players that are able to bunt for singles that are
There's
known
also
to
bigger
bunt.
bags.
Bigger bags, 18 inches versus 15 inches. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that'll
That one
definitely
wasn't as exciting for me, but
So
that's definitely a rule as well.
so basically, we're trying to cut down on all of the bush league type of stuff.
Yes.
I-
Yes.
and truth be told, especially with this younger generation, they just can't seem to get into baseball. A lot of them, and the biggest problem they say is, well, it's too slow. There's no real action. Well, these are some things that help the flow of the game. I think, and obviously that Braves guy found that out the hard way. Even though, I mean, the only thing that's stopping him from being like the center of low lights for some time to come is just it just happened to be a preseason game. So
That's so funny, Larry. I was just about to mention the Savannah Bananas. Are y'all familiar with them?
Oh, absolutely. They're the biggest thing on TikTok right now as
So
far as
Johnny
baseball
Damon
goes.
is on the team. Johnny Damon played the other night,
He
and
did.
it showed up in my Facebook reels. And wow, the rules of that game are awesome. They like line dance up, like the guy who's batting starts a line dance up to the batter's box. If you step out of the batter's box, there's a penalty. I can't remember what it is. If you walk, you run. There's no like prancing up to first base. You run and you go as far as you can. So I'm guessing if it's a pass ball or whatever, you're trying to advance as far as you can. And just really interesting rules for the old
Yeah,
Savannah.
it's reminiscent a little bit of the Harlem Globetrotters, right?
Mm.
Because you're going to carry around the bad guys. What were they?
The Generals.
Yeah, the Washington Generals. Was that what they were called, or was it
Yep.
just the Generals? I seem to remember that, but they're carrying around the Savannah Party Animals. Is their new team that they got? Originally, they were part of a league, but they've now conducted an entire tour. They're coming to Birmingham, Alabama in June. So tickets will go on sale for that. If you haven't signed up, good luck. You're not going to get on the wait list because there's already 250,000 people signed up. Tickets are almost impossible. They're booked. They're sold out. And this is a team. They're not single A. They're not double A. They're none of that.
They're like Floyd Mayweather exhibition.
Yep. Yeah, they're solely exhibition games now at this point, and it's magical. It is getting people into baseball again. It's getting butts in seats, and I mean yellow bases. It's the coolest thing, right?
Yep.
Yellow bases. So I can't wait to see them in Birmingham. I'm hoping to get tickets to go. Hopefully they'll hear me on this and be like, "Oh wow, he's such a big fan, and he has this awesome podcast that."
Bring some on as guests.
Yeah, we can get some guys on as guests. But hey, that Savannah Bananas franchise, when it was purchased, those guys almost went completely out of business. They changed the name to the Bananas. Everybody hated it. They sold every single ticket because everybody wanted to watch it fail. And then it is what it is today. And we're talking about less than 2 years' time that this whole thing came around. So if you've never heard of Savannah Bananas, that's fine. You've heard of them now. You're going to hear about him a lot more. It's only going to get bigger. Like I said, it will be the baseball equivalent of the Harlem Globetrotters for sure.
Hey, Johnny, if you're listening, man, class of 95, you're the class of 91 at Dr. Phillips High School. Come on the show. We're Dr. Phillips Panthers together. Did I tell you all that? I went to high school with Johnny Damon.
I don't know.
No.
Yep.
Yeah, so Johnny Damon and you went with
DJ Khaled,
Joey
Stone, AJ Pierzynski. He had like a 20-year career in major leagues.
Oh, Bert Kreischer
Carlton
dropped. Larry dropped Bert Kreischer. You got to hang out with him. I remember that. Of course, he did all of his batting shirtless. Because that's Bert Kreischer's thing. I think I'm going to start doing that in the podcast. I'm just going to do the podcast shirtless, see if we attract more or less viewers.
So right now, right?
Right now, live, we are up to 343 viewers. So we'll see when I go shirtless next week if we will have more or less viewers.
I think you got a shot at us going viral with that, huh?
Oh, it's going to go something.
Wow.
That's for sure. You know, on the Real Drew Talbert page, I will say that the majority of my followers are women. So, ladies. Now, the
How
two
does
culture
Amber
of
feel about
Splife,
that?
yeah, culture of Splife pages, it's mostly dudes. They're not going to be into it. But for this side of the screen only, for this side of the screen only, or maybe they are, fellas. So we'll see how many views we get. I'll be shirtless next week. You know that's getting edited, and that's going to be put on all of our social media. Oh, times. So Larry wants to know what times we go live. Generally speaking, we go live 8:30 p.m. Central Time on Mondays. Is going to be the Culture of Splife podcast. Occasionally, though, our schedules don't work out. We'll talk about why that doesn't work out here in just a second, because we have kids that travel with sports. We have kids that are Girl Scouts. We have some kids that do ballet, and you have my two boys who are nerds and just play Minecraft a lot and don't want to put in their headgear. So I'm late to showing up. But generally speaking, we are live at 8:30 on Monday. If we don't go live on Monday, you'll see us Tuesday, right? That's normally the go-to methodology. So in
But
theory,
go to our Facebook page. I always put on there when we're going to be live.
there you go. I was going to say, in theory, if you follow Facebook, you'll know. Maybe we should start posting that on Twitter. I don't know. Rod almost does all the stuff on Twitter, so it's almost only exclusively
we
brackets.
can start doing that. Yeah, we can start doing that.
So yeah, Rod, could you drop that on Twitter for us? That'd be
great.
Yeah,
we can do that.
Because I haven't logged into Twitter in 25 years on the Culture of Splife page, so I don't even know what that says. Rod took it over, and I'm thankful for it. He can post whatever he wants to. All the brackets.
We'll start posting
it.
So, Rob, what kind of travel sports is your daughter involved in right now?
Let's see here. We do obviously travel basketball, and then during the week we do what's kind of like a quasi travel skills basketball-ish type of thing, where she's doing that with high school boys, and then of course she plays the girls travel ball, and every week starting mid-March until Memorial Day. That's my life on the weekends. And then of course my 7-year-old is a soccer star, and those weekends will be used up there. So I mean, it's literally one of those things where between practices and games, me and my wife are going to be in two places at the same time. I mean, different places. So I mean, that's and we were talking about it pregame, and I know Josh, you just coming from out of state traveling, and I mean, it's literally one of those things where this time of year, whether it's soccer or basketball or baseball or whatever it may be, this is the height of travel ball dumb.
Right. That's right. I actually just got back from Hattiesburg, Mississippi. I had never been there before, home of Southern Mississippi.
Absolutely.
And as y'all know, my wife owns a travel company, so she books a lot of trips for other people. And sometimes there's not enough time for our trips. And in this case, it was a trip to Hattiesburg. So we didn't have a hotel at 3 o'clock on Friday when we were 2 hours away from heading to Hattiesburg. So we found quite a predicament, yes. So our options were a hotel that's probably 2-star at best, hasn't been refurbished since 1983, orange walls, those nasty bedspreads, from the late 70s, early 80s. And so Katie found a better hotel that was sold out, and she just picked up the phone and called the help desk. Called the reception desk, and they said, well, you can't stay here Saturday, but you can stay here tonight. And so we were like, okay, well, we'll take it. That's better than the nasty bedspreads. So I'm dead asleep at 8:27 Saturday morning. and I get a call from the front desk saying, we took down a note that you needed a place to stay Saturday night, and we've had one cancellation. So you get to stay an extra night. So we got to stay there the whole time. And I'm thinking, what in the world is going on in Hattiesburg, Mississippi? Now, granted, there may be 12 or 13 hotels. I didn't count them, but I didn't pass by many. But then I went to the first game of the soccer tournament. Have y'all been to Hattiesburg, Mississippi for a soccer tournament?
Not for a soccer tournament.
No.
There are 17 full soccer fields. 17. And there were a lot of like younger kids, so they're breaking those fields off into like 2 or 3 fields. So there were thousands of people that were there for this tournament. And now I understand why it was so difficult to get a hotel in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. But yeah, my son's 11 years old and he plays travel soccer, loves it, had 2 goals in a game. So that was awesome. We went 3-1, came in second place, and really starting to grow as a team. So it's been a lot of fun. I'm definitely a soccer dad, that's for sure.
It's crazy.
Not a Minecraft dad like you, Drew.
Mm-hmm.
Nope, I definitely am. My kids are on a direct path of working in nerdy jobs just like me. So,
They'll be laughing all the way to the bank.
That's their aspirations right there. I've actually been really lucky when it comes to my kids in sports. My daughter's the one that we're like, oh, this is going to break the cycle, because we thought that with ballet and everything. But, hearing horror stories of you guys in travel versus my kids and travel, for necessity, it's a lot different world. Like, for example, I'm going to be traveling this weekend to go to a bookstore. That's what I'm going to be traveling to do. You guys will be traveling for sports and have to stay overnight and stuff like that. But why there was that cancellation, right? Somebody's kid got knocked out of the tournament. That's what happened.
Yeah.
You got the loser kids room after the cancellation.
Or it was that kid that was so upset about not getting playing time that they decided to quit the team that day.
Right. Right. That was tragedy. Tragedy struck. Josh, you profited from somebody's tragedy.
Hey, I'll take it. Because when we checked out, the manager said that there was only one cancellation for the whole weekend. And we were just lucky enough that we got that spot. So, because we were literally talking about having to sleep in our car potentially. There were no hotels. Wow. Sold out. So, obviously, we would have done that as a last resort. But
I mean, hey, it would have been a great podcast story for you, right?
That's right. And it would be a good life lesson for the kids, right?
Yes.
You have a very good life, but this is how some people actually live.
I mean, and of course, one day your kids will be able to tell their kids, when I played travel ball, I had to sleep in the car.
Right.
Exactly.
And Larry, that is correct. Like basically from April till the end of summer, it's hard to find a hotel in Atlanta.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, we're actually running into that a little bit, even out on the outskirts of Atlanta in March. We're going up to Brookhaven for a weekend for their Cherry Blossom Festival, and hotels are thin pickings. Now, the advantage to Atlanta, and a lot of people, like, I don't know, folks from Alabama, it might just be us, but one advantage to Atlanta is, you do have the MARTA. You don't have to stay where you have to be. So you can use that to travel. And I mean, like, the MARTA is 30 minutes from north to south on the Gold Line, all the way from the airport to the furthest place north in Atlanta that it goes. So it's not a horrible ride. If you drove that, it's going to take you, like 6 hours. So a 30-minute ride isn't that far. But yeah, so, there is the option of the MARTA. So check out those MARTA listings and see if you can just ride that into the concert. Now, leaving the concert is going to suck. You're going to have to wait a minute to get a ride back from MARTA, because a couple of other people are going to be doing that too. They're going to have that same idea. I'm not going to pretend like they're not. It's kind of like me when I was in New York, and I see everybody dressed in hockey gear, and it's like, oh crap, the Rangers are in town. And guess
Yeah.
where I've got to go? Penn Station, which is where all of them are dropping off to go over into Madison Square Garden. So yeah, it was rough. I made it, but it was rough.
Oh man, yep. So, and I remember back when this summer we had to be in Atlanta on 2 different weekends for collegiate exposure tournaments, and we were staying like 15, 20 miles away. It was that bad.
Yeah, and I think I've got a story that I should post to social media from an earlier podcast about that drive. Right? Was that the one with the windshield wipers didn't even work? The rain was so bad. Wasn't that the thunderstorm driving to
Oh no, that was Valdosta.
Valdosta? That's right. That's right.
Yeah, which I mean, the 5 hours in rainstorms, and in 2 different cases there was tornado warnings. So that was. Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anytime, anytime you can be thankful for just being here on level ground and not having to drive that drive.
I mean, the drive was bad enough, but we were talking about my oldest daughter. 13. Leap tall buildings in a single bound, and she's doing 24 reps of 85 pounds on the bench press. But her kryptonite is storms. Like goes from lion to mouse in an instant with a storm or the threat of a storm. So can you imagine having somebody with a hardcore phobia of storms in the car with you for 5 hours while you're driving through severe weather the whole time?
Mm. Well, and y'all remember my Macon story. I told you that when we were going down to Hilton Head for Thanksgiving, and my oil pressure went all the way down to like 70.
Oh,
Yes. And I ended up spending the night in Macon, had to rent a car to be able to make it to Thanksgiving. Cost me about $1,000 to rent a car for 3 days, which was cheap because the other option was taking an Uber to Atlanta to get a car from there because everything was closed in Macon at 6 o'clock when all this went down. So shout out to Express Oil in Macon. And Larry, we went over to the Buffalo Wild Wings for dinner. If you're familiar with that area of town, so yeah, that was an interesting Macon story for sure. Oh wow.
Being there when it snowed. Me and Rod got a chance to sleep in the office. That's what we were doing.
right? 30 hours, right?
Yep.
Snowmageddon.
Yep. We just took a nap. That's what got me into the Avengers movies. That's what I was telling somebody the other day. I started watching them there. Had something to change my VPN, so I looked like I was in foreign countries, and I was able to get all of them on Netflix.
Did I tell y'all
That's all we had.
Did I tell y'all what my car problem was? The reason why my oil pressure went down so much?
Mm-mm.
No, you didn't.
My oil filter was not changed in my previous oil change.
Yep,
That's
that'll
what
do it.
caused the problem. So
that happens
I had
a lot.
Hotel, I had more meals, I had this huge rental car, and I had about a $200 fix that had to be done, all because the person who changed my oil, and I won't crush them, didn't change my oil filter.
That happens more than you know.
Yep, it was hard to get off. It was tough. It was
swore
sad.
to me that they did, but yeah.
Right.
So yeah, there's my Macon story, Larry.
Let's give some trivia answers. It's
right.
10 p.m.
Uncle Joe, what you got for us?
Uncle Joe. Nobody's got any guesses to the first question? All right, so the first question was, for those of you that are just coming in the middle of the podcast here, there are 3 former NBA players that after their playing careers, they went on to be NBA referees. Name those 3. And that would be Leon Wood, Bernie Fryer, and Haywood Workman. Y'all remember Haywood Workman?
Yes, that's
point
the only
guard
one
from the
that's the
Indiana
only one I would have
Pacers.
known.
Yeah, I knew Bernie Fryer as a referee, but I didn't know he was an NBA player.
I knew Workman.
Yep. And the reason why this came up is because Smush Parker actually tweeted it. Y'all remember Smush
Yes.
with the Lakers?
Mm-hmm.
He is currently a referee, and he's trying to become the fourth NBA player to become an NBA referee.
Where they better rest them. I don't. Based on the way officiating is today, that would be hard.
I want to see one of these big dudes do it. You know, like I'm talking 7'4" big dudes dressed like a referee out there. Like, who are you going to argue with, right? Like,
That's right.
You know, it's a foul. No, it wasn't a foul. Are you sure? Yes, sir. It was a foul. I admit it. Guilty as charged. That's what I want out there.
You know, those big dudes are probably let a lot of stuff go since they were like just walloped in the post, all the time.
Right.
I didn't see any blood. That wasn't a foul.
Right.
Like I gotta say, no, not a foul. that's what I want to see out there.
Oh, that'd be great.
That's what I want right there in my NBA. That'll get me watching NBA again. NBA people make it happen. That's what I want to see.
All right, Drew, what's the answer to your trivia question?
Okay, so Larry did cheat in the chat. He went ahead and cheated and is now completely disturbed by the answer. So the question was, in 1920, Texas A&M did something with their rival's mascot that no other team has ever done. What did they do? And the answer to that question is they ate their mascot. They literally ate him. In January of 1920, Texas, along with Texas A&M, ate Bevo the Longhorn, or Bevo, however you pronounce it. They literally cooked him, grilled him, and ate him, and fed them at the banquet. The mascot did have the score branded on it, though. It was a 13-0 score from the matchup that they had a couple of years ago in football. Because again, this was in the 20s, so like you didn't play each other all the time. So it was kind of a memorable barbecue that they had, and allegedly Texas has never done this since then. Although, can we ever really know if Texas has ever done that? I don't know who this is. More of a what's the meat salty? Oh my gosh. I don't know who is worse here. Okay. So is Texas worse for feeding their mascot to their rival team, or is their rival team worse for eating the mascot? Because both, I feel like, are power moves.
Yeah, A&M lost the game. So at the very least, you can say to get back at them, we'll just eat the mascot.
Right.
Texas is hard sell. Like, you just delivered bragging rights that your rival shouldn't have by letting them eat your mascot.
But again, like, I'm thinking like, oh, you like that, Mill? Yeah, that was our mascot. Yeah, you just ate our mascot. Like, that's what I'm thinking. like that's how it plays out.
Is that where this started?
right.
Yeah.
Did they feed them the part that had the 13-0 score on it? Did they cook that part?
Yeah, I would assume so, because it had to have been on the hind.
I mean, then I can
the best part.
Then I can get with that being a power move.
Yeah, like keep that on the leather. Like, did they frame that piece? They had to. Man, this is messed up. Or if
you were going to charge them for it, it should have just been $13.
I don't know. Who kept on? I don't know what digression is worse, this week or last week. There's something happening.
That's the beauty of it
on TikTok that happens in our podcasts now. There's definitely rules that are broken. Maybe I should stop talking after 9:30 p.m. As we approach 10, it just goes downhill when Andrew speaks from then on.
With or without a shirt on.
Right, with or without a shirt, because I will be shirtless next week. Tune in, guys.
Oh man.
You guys are gonna be worried. You're gonna be texting me all week. You're wearing your shirt, right? Like, for real?
All right, Rod, you ready to close us out, man?
Now, this is what you do, man. I can't do it justice the way that Josh Crago can.
All right, Drew, close us out.
Nope, but don't do it. Not my job.
All right. Well, Larry, we appreciate you coming on the show today, and you are a perfect example of what we want this show to be. We want it to be fully interactive. That's what we're here to do.
Yes.
We're just three guys who like to talk about sports and life a little bit, because that's what our lives are about for the most part. Sports and life, a little bit of work on the side, I guess, so that we're able to do this part of the day. But we love being here. This, as you can tell, is not an NFL or a college football podcast. This is very much a podcast of sports and about things that happen in life. We almost talked about Girl Scout cookies, so that may come up as what's your favorite Girl Scout cookie, to get that kind of engagement. So we want this to be fun. We've allowed listeners day one. We have a guy, Eric Knowlton, a good buddy of mine. We call him Day One because he's been here for all of our podcasts. And so he was able to come on the show. We've had a former NFL player, and we're planning on having many more athletes and Navy SEALs. Have an opportunity to potentially get a guy who survived a 25,000-foot fall when his parachute didn't work. The multiple backups for that. So definitely tune in, whether you're with us live or on Apple Podcasts, right? We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. Drew mentioned we're on Twitter, obviously TikTok, Facebook Reels, YouTube Shorts, everywhere you can think of, and even where, Drew? Clapper? We're on the Clapper. So Drew's just making up social media places for us to be. But we love being here. We have a great time and hope you do too. And until next time, have a great week. And we'll see you whenever I say on Facebook next week.
And Twitter this time.
That's right. Rod, shout us out on Twitter. There you go.